Yes, good afternoon. So myself Karthikeyan, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Government College Engineering, Tanjavur. So here, let us introduce what today's my objective. So here, in the previous units, just we will discuss about what are the basic characteristics of information, like, and what are the different components, and what are the different factors for security. And we are talking about the different ways we are going to apply the concept of security for the information. Then followed by we are talking about the different kind of attacks and as well as the threats, and what are the different kind of the laws will be applicable for security, and also we are discussed about a computer security. So in unit number 3, just we are going to explain that we are going to discuss about the concept of security analysis. So that means that we are going to talking about what are the different kind of risk which is associated with that information in the particular organization, and what are the different procedures we need to do in order to control those risks. So that is a security analysis. So that the security analysis is consists of two important. There is a risk management. So that risk management is consists of two major steps. One is for that is called identification. Second one, control. And the first of all, just we have to say what is risk management. So risk management is the formal process of we need to identify the risk and also controlling the risk which is faced with the organization in a particular, for a particular information. So normally this risk management consists of two steps. One is risk identification and assessment, and second one is risk controlling. So first of all, I'm going to talking about what is risk identification. Just I can let us introduce what is risk identification and control, but then we will discuss elaborately. So first one is risk identification. So risk identification is the process of examining the entire organization in order to identify what are the major impacts, what are the different type of risk which is associated in the particular information, and also we are going to document everything and documented everything about that what is the methodologies we are normally used for organization which faces those which faces the risk. So once if it is identified, then we are going to identify the different methodologies for reducing those risks. Okay, once if you want to apply the concept of this risk management, there are two basic principles that need to be known or need to be identified or need to be considered. One is, first of all, you must to understand, know yourself, and second one is called know your enemy. So the first term is know yourself. It means that, so I am an organization, so I need to know what are the different quality of the information which is processed inside of the organization. So they need to identify, examine, and understand what is the information system in an organization. This is everything based on our self-evident. And you are going to identify what are the important assets of every organization and what are the different kind of weakness we have. So once you identify the weakness, and also we have to identify what are the different type of policies we are applied and what type of trainings programs we are offered to the employees for securing that information, and what type of technologies normally used for productive information. The second one, know the enemy. So in that know the process, know yourself. It means that we know, so that the organization itself, they assess themselves. And second one is know the enemy. So we must to identify and examine and understand the threats of the particular organization. So normally we know that threat means it's the constant changes to the organization information. And from the once you examine, then you have to list out what are the threats we have, and based on that, the threats and attacks is possible, and to prioritize those risks and attacks. And from there, you are going to apply different kind of policies or different kind of methodologies for solving those risks. So our objective is we can't able to have reduce. We can't remove the risk 100%. We are trying to reduce the impact of the risk. So that's an important goal. So that these are the responsibilities of and the different communities who need to be involved for in order to manage the risk in an organization. One is information security, second one management and users, and third one information security. Information technology. And these are the three important different type of groups, or maybe we call as a communities, need to be there in every organization. One is for how we are going to secure information. The theme is called information security, and the management and the use. That means management and the users. And third one, information technologies. And the responsibility of each and every community is they need to evaluating the risk and identify the cost and effective methods of those risk management techniques. And you are going to implement that and monitoring this control and the uses of the organizations. Okay, the first step is risk identification. So already we know that risk identification is the process of examining and documenting the security posture of organization information technology, and we are going to identify what is the type of risks we are to face. So it is an iterative process. It means that it will be the repetitive process. Once the particular risk identification, once the risk is identified and the proper methodology is identified for control, and it will be assessed, and if there is any still there is a problem, then we have to repeat. I mean, we are going to identify some other methodology. So that always the risk identification, assessment, and the control, it is an iterative process. So, here the major goal of this risk identification is just identifying and classifying the risk, and also we are going to prioritize the risk based on the asset values. So the first step is you are going to identify the asset identification and evaluation, and you are going to identify listing the different kind of an asset based on the order of the importance, and you are going to classify it and you are trying to manage, and from that what are the different kind of threats are there, and you identify the important threats need to be prioritized, and finally you are going to identify the loopholes. So the first step is asset identification and evaluation. So actually this is also an iterative process. It is the process of identifying the different assets from the different components of an organization elements. So we already know what are the different elements of information, like people, procedures, software, hardware, data, and network. These are the different elements. So from there we are going to identify the assets. And from there we are going to identify what are the different type of important assets. That is the second step. That is called asset evaluation. So that while we are going to evaluate the asset, the following questions need to be asked in order to accept that evaluate each and every asset. So identify the most critical assets of an organization, the important assets of an organization. Second one, identify that that means that also we have to identify that asset which creates a more revenue for every organization, most expensive to replace, and more expensive to products. And these are the four questions need to be asked and need to be identified. These four things need to be identified in every organization. Once the assets is identified, and we are going to list of assets based on the priority order. For that, maybe we have to follow the concept of weighted factor analysis, so that we are going to weight assign from 0.0 to 1.0. And based on this weighted factors, normally we are trying to follow the factors which is followed by the NIST SP 8030. This is standard for the risk management and information technology. So next thing is okay. Now that assets are identified, now we are going to identify what are the we are going to classify that, so that we are going to classify based on the relationships for identifying the priority levels. So for that, we are going to use the level concept scheme as GP scheme, that is called Geographical Pacific Corporation. Geographical Pacific Corporation Classification Scheme. Normally, this is scheme normally used for ensuring that the confidentiality and the integrity of information for entire within that organizations. So the schemes is mainly to focus on it's separate schemes for confidentiality, separate schemes for internal and externals. Okay. So the next thing is once the scheme applied, then we are going to identify that security clearance. I mean that once if the particular information need to be accessed by the organization, so the security clearance is important. So that the first step is we are going to assign a single authorization level to the individual. And also we are going to apply the different, we are going to apply for the different rule for every employee of an organization based on need to know standard. So once if everything identified, then we are going to manage the classified data so that we are going to provide some kind of productions in storage or maybe distributions or maybe during the destruction, we are going to apply some kind of management techniques. So for example, clean desk policy. That maybe somebody maybe know that if you work with like MNC company, always they are have some hierarchical structure for storing information. For example, the important product documents need to be stored only in that particular folder, and only that the supporting documents need to be located somewhere. So for every day, it is based on timing. I mean, it's based on the day. I mean, always you're going to name the document based on the date. So these are some different kind of procedures we are going to use. So in that one procedure is called as a clean desk policy. So clean desk policy means that you are going to store that information in a particular location at the end of every day. Next one is a dumpster diving. So normally that dumpster diving is one of the problem that is we are always means the hackers can to extract the information from a trash and recycle bin. Maybe somebody may know that in that's in the film name is called Ella Marigo. In that they are searched that the mail ID after the particular scientist. So in that they can't find it anything. So they just strike that and they are trying to search in a trace or recycle bin and try to extract the important information. So that it is also an important thing. So that we are always to manage those informations. Okay, now we know what is an important asset and we are classified and we are managed. And the next thing was, so now we have some management procedure we follow. So now what we have to do was, we have to identify what are the different type of threats and attacks as possible. So we already discussed about different 14 kind of threats and 15 kind of attacks we already in the previous unit. So from there we are identifying what are the different type of possible threats and attacks is possible for our assets. So that's a particular information that is once the threats are identified, and based on that we are going to prioritize. So that next thing is from the once the threats are identified, and we are going to identify what is the vulnerability on the every assets. So we are going to identify the vulnerability assets. Okay. So now the threats are identified. The next thing is assessment. So I mean that how much percentage of that information is threatened. I mean that is having a risk. So the risk assessment is based on the probability. So it is based on that number of vulnerability into that is the value of the information. That means the weighted factor of that information asset minus that the percentage of the risk mitigated by the current control. Means how much percentage of the risk is controlled by the current scheme, plus how much percentage of that information is not known by us. It's not covered by this management scheme. So this is the formula. It's a probability of the probability into the number of times minus the number of risk are controlled and number of risk as uncertainty. Still now it is not controlled. So this is a probability based. So that the first step is you are going to calculate the likelihood value calculation. So that means that we are going to identify the numerical value. Then we are going to determine the amount of the risk. Then we are going to identify the prioritize the risk and try to identify the impact. So in that we must know about what is residual risk. So residual risk is the process of identifying the risk that remains to the information even after applying the existing control. So that is called residual risk. So that even we are trying to identify the positive, the different kind of control methodology, even some kind of the risk cannot be controlled. That is coming under residual risk. So there are different kind of strategies we are used. One is like policy. So you know what is a policy? So there are different type of policy we have that is called general specific security policy, issue specific, and system specific, which is already discussed. It's going to discuss in the forthcoming syllabus. Next one, what are the different kind of activities we are going to use inside of the organization for control, and what type of technologies we are used. And the next access control. I mean that if a particular user wants to access the information in an organization or it wants to use. So this access control provides that how we are going to allow a person, the user inside of this trusted area. So there are different kind of access mechanism maybe we follow. One is called mandatory access control. In that for every, already we know that, no, so for every user have some rights, so that we are going to assign some limited control to the user. So there is next one is called lattice based control. Actually here it means that inside of this mandatory access control we are going to organize this is a control based on the matrix format. And the next one, not discouraging the access control. Actually, here the controls are managed by certain authority based on either role or maybe based on the task we are going to manage. For example, like admin, users, so like that. And the next one is called as discretionary. That is called optional access control. This control is optional to the user. Next one is once if everything is identified, we are going to document everything for the future purpose. Once maybe the reason is if the same risk is identified in some other places, maybe it will be means from this document itself we are going to identify what type of procedure we are going to follow. So once the risk identified, now the risk identified, we identify some risks of that, then we are going to assessment the impact of the risk and prioritized, and everything is documented. And finally, just we are going to go with the risk control strategies. So once the risk of the organization is assessed, and the security team must take some kind of a stress for controlling those risks. So this controlling may be on these four kind of strategies. It may be avoidance, or maybe this is transference, or maybe this is mitigation, also we call as an elevation or an improvement, and fourth one is acceptance. These are the four different kind of control strategies need to be followed for in order to controlling those risks. So the first one is avoidance. So the avoidance means we are going to means that we are going to try to means we have to prevent the risk. That is the meaning of avoidance. So that always we are going to play some kind of control to this vulnerability. Means that we are trying to not using those kind of information inside of the organization. So by using with the help of a policy, provide different kind of training and education to the employees, and also we must know the application of the technologies. I mean that for this avoidance state, try to avoid the use of this confidential information or those materials inside of the organization for in front of all. So that we are going to apply different kind of policy for control, or maybe we are going to provide proper training and control training and awareness for education to the employees for controlling their behavior, for controlling this kind of secure information, and also with the help of some kind of technologies to be used for controlling, like cryptographic techniques or maybe IDS, intrusion reduction, different kind of security methodologies need to be applied for control. So once in order to implementing the avoidance, the following steps need to be followed. We are going to countering how much number of risks are there, and we are going to remove the vulnerability, and also provide a limited access for those assets, and also we are going to provide some safeguards. Second one, transferring. So I mean the transference. So in this transference, we are going to shift this group to someone. Instead of this same risk, means the same as we are going to shift the risk to someone. So that for that, what we have to do is we are going to identify instead of this service, we are going to link with some other service, so that we are going to rethinking how the service to be mapped, and we are going to change the modification in the deployment and try to give the outsourcing to other organizations, and or maybe we are going to provide some kind of a policy and insurance policies for them, and also we are going to provide some contract to the providers. So this is called transference. And mitigation. So here mitigation means we are attempting to reduce the impact caused by the exploration of this vulnerability with the help of proper planning and with the preparations. It may be an incident recovery plan, or maybe a disaster recovery plan, or maybe a business continuity plan. So in the institution continuity plan, that's an incident response plan. Means we are going to take some set of steps to reduce and correct the impact. So for that, we are going to follow the step planning, reduction, and reaction and recovery. First, to plan it, and for controlling the risk, we are planning to some kind of activities in order to control. So second one is we are going to detect is there any vulnerability, and so we are going to do some action against this vulnerability, and we are going to recover those kind of vulnerability, action of those vulnerability. Do that. Second one is a disaster. So actually, it provides the detailed guidance to the for every information security. I mean, so for every attack. Also, we are providing some backup strategies. Next one, business continuity plan. So normally, this is a long-term strategy compared to other type of plans. So here we are going to identify that means based on for every year or every month we are going to restore those informations if there is any issues like that. And fourth step is acceptance. If, sometimes we can't do anything for those kind of means we can't do any actions for controlling them. So that we have to accept and we can't not able to provide anything for product to vulnerability and accept. We are going to accept the recommendations and we are going to justify that because of these reasons, so that whatever the changes we made in the original information, we have to rectify. So these are the four type of control strategies needed. Initially, just I can recall once again. So for security analysis, the risk management is very, very important. So the risk management is a process of identifying the risk and we must know the impact. So further, we need to identify the risk. Further, there are two principles need to be followed. One is know yourself and know the enemy. And second one is first of all, we have to identify the risk assessment. Sorry, risk identification. So once the risk is identified, next thing is we are going to do an assessment with based on the probability based and everything to be documented. And finally, the risk are identified so that it should be controlled with the help of four techniques. One is called as an avoidance, second one transference, and third one mitigation, and fourth one acceptance. So these are the different kind of strategies, the methodologies need to be followed in order to reduce the risk of the important assets of an organization. So if you want to apply some security procedure inside of the organization, always we have to do some risk management techniques need to be applied. So on every risk management, risk assessment, risk management technique is an iterative process, so that for each and maybe it's a periodically or maybe periodically it should be done. So especially every organization need to assess that. Information to access that risk management techniques for every in periodical way. Periodical way is the best way to assess the risk. If you found that if anything is a problem, so simply we can apply, we can apply the different kind of control methodologies and try to reduce the impact of the risk. Thank you.